It has been a while since I whipped out this book, so I thought I'd better treat you to a story about an old bitter friend of mine called the Lemon Song. Yeah, I'm friends with the Lemon Song, and that's his name, all right? The Lemon Song. During the North American tour of summer 1969, with Robert Plant's improvisation of new words, Killing Floor by Howlin' Wolf, real name Chester Burnett, was transformed into the Lemon Song. Clearly, the Lemon Song finds itself at a crossroads of multiple influences. In the opening riff, played by Jimmy Page, we find the influence of Howlin' Wolf's Killing Floor. As we've already seen, certain sonorities of Jimi Hendrix's Foxy Lady, elements that can recall Yardbirds, Cream, and so on. But to whom can we attribute the blues progressions themselves, all of which derive from reciprocal interactions? This bloody book! It's like being back at school. It is Jimmy Page, then, who opens the track in the left channel, accompanied by a powerful strike of the gong by John Bonham, who seems to have acquired quite a taste for the instrument since using it on what is and what should never be. I'm getting angry the more I read this passage, as there are a lot of words per sentence. The guitar sound is distorted. That was an easy sentence. Dirty, as some would say. Some sources have Page playing his Dragon Telecaster plugged into his Super amp. Others claim he's using his 1959 Les Paul Standard. What do you think he was using? Let me know in the comments below. It is difficult to say. Either way, he is using his Fox Grey wah to take the edge off the high frequencies and obtain a more nasal tone. After 4 bars of the guitar riff, Bonham and Jones join in, supporting Page with some simple, subtle playing with that underlying groove that is characteristic of the rhythm section. Plant's lead vocal gives the Lemon Song a curiously live feel, and I'm not reading anymore, just in case I make some more mistakes. Let's get to it. I know what you're thinking. The Lemon Song? I learnt that in my 20s, 186 years ago. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. First of all, pathetic. And secondly, there's actually a lot of interesting and fiddly things going on in the Lemon Song. Well, the first part of it anyway. That's what we're taking a look at today. And they're worth talking about, hence me making this video. The first thing to learn is this little hybrid technique where the pick is going to hit the low E and your naughty finger, your middle finger, is going to constantly pick the B at the same time. The left hand is going to go between open, G sharp, A and B, frets 4, 5, 7, and then it kind of slides back down and out to open again at the end like this. Now we've got this chord, which is an E7 sharp 9, more commonly known as the Hendrix chord, but for this lesson, it's known as the Lemon Page chord. Now when you strike that chord, both times you want to give it some vibrato. And obviously depending on which one you're playing in the song, it will exit slightly differently. The first one, it just kind of goes up and down, and you have to make this like drunk face. There's also a little bit of vibrato on the bass notes as they're creeping up as well. I don't think it sounds as good without, but it can be a little bit tricky to put it in because it's like this repetitive line, and because we're on the low E string, we need to be really mindful that we don't fly off the neck like that, okay? Practice that 11,000 times, and then we can move on to the next little fill, we'll call it. So this is a cool little double stop fill. You're going to come up to the 12th fret of the D and the G. I like to go up, down, and then I go up on the 14th fret of the A, and then go back to the 12th fret of the D and the G. You can hit that twice at the end, or you could hit it once. Depends what mood you're in. I'm in the double mood. Okay, the next phrase is ridiculous. So as always, when it comes to something fiddly and page, there are approximately 3,064 different ways that you can play it, but I've settled on this. You're going to start by picking the open G, then the 2nd fret, the note A, hammer that down to the 4, and then take your middle finger and go to the 3rd fret of the B string, the note D. When you do that, you might find it easier to take the 3rd finger off the G string. That way you're not going to accidentally mute the B with the underside of the 3rd finger. Like that, because at speed, you need that clarity. So I just lift it off. To finish the lick, we're going to go back to the 2nd fret of the G, hammer and pull off to the 4th fret, back to the 2nd, and then pull off to the open. Then come down to the 2nd fret of the D, pull that off to open. And you can hear that when I take that 3rd finger off, when I go up to that D note on the 3rd fret of the B string, it's a lot clearer than leaving the 3rd finger on. And then with the first part, so at that point in the song, the drums have kicked in, the vocals kick in, you do a few repeats where you just hit the E7 sharp 9 and you slide out. The first time it changes, again with a different fill, is when it's moving to the A chord, okay? Dead simple there. We're going to hammer on from the 5th fret of the A to the 7, D to E, up to the note G, 5th fret of the D string, and then hammer on that D to E again. Now we're going to move up to the A string as our root, and we keep the pattern the same in terms of it being fret 4, 5, 7. But what you can do when you hit the 5th fret of the A string, I can hear the open G ringing out on top. So you can either pick it with your middle finger, or you can kind of brush the pick over and mute the open D string with the underside of the middle finger. And it's kind of messy sounding like that on the track, but it's cool. It's definitely there. It packs it out for a second. Anyway, if you slide down from the 7 to the open, you're just going to hit an A5 power chord. And then you're going to take the G, 3rd fret of the low E, bend that up to the A, whole tone. Let it down and give it some vibrato, so. to the E. Last fill. Hold your horses, we'll get to the fancy end lick in a minute. This chromatically moves from a G sharp to an A, then up to the B. Just like moving up 4 semitones in a row, but we're doing it over 2 strings. Timing here is really important. I'll put in some percussive mute so you can hear it. Okay, then what you're going to do, whilst you're holding that B down with the index finger, basically put on a D5 shape, 2nd fret of the G and 3rd fret of the B. Keep the index finger on the B and the bass. You're basically going to pick around those notes in order, starting on the G. It's going to go G string, A string, B string. So you start on the G string and you finish on the G string with that chord shape. Now I want you to just hop that index finger over to the 2nd fret of the D, and you're going to pick in order A, D, G. And that final time, hit the open A, cover it for a second to kill the bleed, hit the open E, and that'll help transfer you to the final lick. The really important thing here is the space that you leave after the first B note that you hit. I put those 2 little mutes in there to help you feel the rhythm and the space, because that picking pattern is continuous. It goes around and around, right? So if you don't get that rest right, you'll end up in front or behind and then out. So one more time. Last lick. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you could play this. A simple version, just a single note version, and then one that uses some unison bends to sort of emulate the idea of you double tracking a guitar, okay? So you've got that open E, which has kind of bridged the gap between playing low and high. Then you're going to bend the 15th fret of the B string up whole tone. When it's up there, you're going to hit it twice. Pre-bend release. And then hit the B string twice. Okay? Then you're going to hit the 14th fret of the G and then bar the index finger flat over the 12th B and the G. Here, if you want, you can do some tiny little micro pushes, but nothing too big because you don't want to push too far away from the note. Finish on the 14th fret of the D. And then we've got these little chromatic runs to finish off. So that's 12th fret of the D, 13 and 14, up to 12 on the G, back to the 14, and then down a tone to the 12. You almost do the same thing on the A string, so dropping the whole thing down a string, but just finish one note earlier. I submit, as Larry David would do, that the Fratellis were having a Zeppelin jam on a quiet Saturday afternoon. And they came across this little lick in the Lemon song and thought, you know what? We're having that. And the rest was history. Now, if you want to make it sound a little bit more like a double-tracked guitar, you want those kind of tonal differences, right? So all I do on that very first bend is stick the high E in on the 12th fret with the index finger, and then we bend that D up to it. And you're creating the illusion of maybe two guitarists bending to the same note. So it would be the same when you hold it up and the pre-bend release. And then when you come down to the 14th fret of the G, again, you give it that little micro push. You don't want to move it too far away from the note A. I kind of hit a double stop there on the B and the G. And again, I'm kind of pushing up and then pulling the finger down. Just creating this warble throughout it. Now you could take that even further with the Unison Bends. Let me have a think. So what I did that time was when it came to the A note, instead of playing it there on the 14th fret of the G, what I did was planted the index finger on the A note on the B string, fret 10, unison bend the 12th fret of the G, up, grabbed the B and the G with the pinky and the third finger, and then I hit the E note here instead of here. I don't think he plays it this way at all. It just shows you how many tonal options there are on the guitar for people to troll me about and everyone else on the internet. But you can create your own little versions of things to make things sound a certain way. So here we're trying to do the double tracking thing, right? I don't think it's ever about being overly precise when you're doing Page stuff. And it's definitely not about being timid with the pick in hand. He's very rhythmic and percussive. So don't be afraid to dig in. The difference between playing something like this and something like this is huge. You've pushed your guitar into its like chesty shouting voice. Same with the main riff. If you go super precise, like versus pushing it, digging in, you're outputting more signal, aren't you? So you're going to overdrive the front of your amp more, and it just sounds better. I hope you enjoyed this little bite-size lemon lesson. I could have put that better, couldn't I? This bite of a lemon. No. This bite-sized lesson of the lemon song. That's what I was trying to say. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun hanging out with you guys, as always. If you want the extra learning materials to go with it, you can grab that on my Patreon, help support the channel. And yeah, speaking of the channel, don't forget to hit subscribe, like this video, hit the bell next to it to make sure that you are alerted every time I upload a video, and leave a comment below telling me something that you enjoyed or something you didn't enjoy. I do my best to get back to everybody. But yeah, I'm gonna go now because, well, don't know, I need a haircut or something. I keep touching my head. Sick of it. I'm gonna go. It's been very lovely. Look after yourselves and I'll see you soon.